All right, I am recording. Ronald the Rules Lawyer here, together with Swing Ripper, my buddy and
I
co-admin at my Discord server, reacting to the exciting news that Paizo with BKOM Studios is going to have a CRPG, a computer role-playing game, and I saw some question about whether it'll be using Pathfinder 2E rules. I don't see how it does not.
I don't think there is a world where it doesn't.
If not, there will be, a riot.
A riot and a lot of confusion.
Yes. So Abomination Vaults, for those who don't know, is the very successful, perhaps the most successful adventure path. Paizo publishes, it used to be initially a magazine, and then it became monthly installments of level 1 to maybe level 20 adventures. They now go to level 20, starting with Pathfinder 2E. It is a mega dungeon adventure path, and that word doesn't really describe all of it. There is a mega dungeon, and there are factions inside the dungeon, but it's very it's not bare or empty. The representative for a bare, very empty dungeon with lots of work for the DM to fill in the gaps is Wizards of the Coast, Dungeon of the Mad Mage. And also there's a very fleshed out nearby town with a lot of colorful NPCs. I think for a new GM, it's a very logical, it's pretty easy to run relatively. And it also set in the same town as the beginner box. But it has consistently been well received. It's a level 1 to 10 adventure path. And I'm not surprised. Actually, they had announced that they were going to publish a 5th edition conversion of this adventure path, and said in one of the interviews that it would be that was planned all along, that a dungeon adventure would be kind of the first presentation to the world of Pathfinder 2E for 5e players, and so that makes sense for it to be the first hopefully CRPG. What else did I want to say? I hope it's not simply a replica of what's in the adventure path. The computer role-playing game versions of Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous are very expansive. You can just do more, have more content for a computer role-playing game. And I hope that happens. I'm also excited about the fact that it's a mega dungeon. I'll say a little bit more about my thoughts on that, but I think it's just easier to extend it, and for them to go in different directions, and even to make expansions and stuff. What do you? I'm now going to ask you what you think, Swing Ripper.
So my thought is that's interesting that they'd pick an adventure path that is specifically levels 1 to 10 for the adventure they're starting with, because that lends me to the idea of how you said with expansions, because there's also a lot of 11 to 20 adventures that are coming out, with things like Stolen Fate or the previously made Fist through Phoenix adventure paths. They'll start at level 11, which is 1 after 10, so you could very easily transition.
Yeah. Also, I saw someone say, "Oh, I wish they did a level 1 to 20 adventure path." Honestly, I'm glad they're doing a shorter one, because it means we get it earlier. There's just going to be more development time. It'll be more buggy. If they have to create classes and be able to program, spells that go up to 10th level spells and level. Anyway, we all know it's gonna be complicated. And first adaptation of a Pathfinder game, Kingmaker, was notoriously buggy, incomplete, and broken. And when it launched, they actually had to launch that earlier while it was still undercooked, and it got slammed with negative reviews at first because they needed to get some incoming money to fund the rest of the development. I'd rather them be to shoot lower than too high. And of course, there are level 11 to 20 adventure paths, and just the nature of a mega dungeon, maybe we can see the actual adventure path expanded deeper. Who knows? I think a lot of people will be checking it out. I hope people don't now stop playing the paper version, because I do think a computer game will be more expansive. The other thing that is that people are talking about is the developer, which is seems relatively untested. unproven. They have one computer role-playing game, which they've published before, and I'm going to put it up on the screen, Tales from Candlekeep, Tomb of Annihilation. This actually was taken down from Steam around spring of 2022, which when I checked the dates, it was because their license to to use the IP around this adventure expired. Their agreement with Wizards of the Coast. That's also around the same time that D&D Beyond was purchased by Wizards of the Coast, and I'm gonna guess that. I mean, why shouldn't they license out a computer game? I'm guessing there's some kind of wanting to limit the number of ways you can play 5e, but because, as we saw with the OGL and VTT drama that's been happening recently, but also it was an adaptation of a board game, and I haven't looked deep into the reviews of that, but it seemed like the commentary was that it was kind of not very deep, straightforward dungeon crawl, and I'm just thinking, well, that's kind of what the board game was. And you can't, if that's all it was, I'm more interested in how well they did it. And I'm going to be putting out an invite on my server to see if I could join someone's family. Someone can adopt me so I can play test BKOM and play this computer game and do a review, a rules lawyer in-depth critique of BKOM's previous work. Any other thoughts on this new announcement?
So
before we talk about the remaster, Pathfinder remaster announcement. Yeah.
I have one final thought on this company, and I thought they did a lot of mobile games. I don't really have any opinions on that because a lot of smaller companies, mobile games are cheap to develop, so it makes sense. But I think that's definitely a place where we could look if you want to get more information on them. I just didn't look into it that deeply because...
Yeah.
I did.
I know very little about why the Pathfinder MMORPG failed, but that's also a mark on Paizo's history. I think the whole idea of an MMORPG in 2012 when it was announced, I think it was dead in the water. I think that was the main factor.
That was during like the massive flood of everybody trying to make several MMOs all at once, and the
based on
oversaturated and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, try to be the next World of Warcraft.
Because those are some of the most expensive games to develop, like live service, big expansive games with a lot of decision points. Like that's difficult to build and difficult to build well.
Mm-hmm. What I hope is that they found enthusiastic developers who are passionate about the game. I'm guessing that's what happened with Owlcat, who is also an untested company that funded through a Kickstarter. Although they had a rocky launch with Kingmaker, it's now like they're now well respected and beloved because of all. They went overboard with that. There's so much story, so much content. They were very ambitious. They have, in fact, that was one of their criticisms of themselves, that they're too ambitious. We'll see. It looks like BKOM has just not had the opportunity to do a project like this. I hope this goes well. I'd love to. I want it to be a turn-based, designed to be turn-based from the beginning, because real time with pause. It was problematic for Pathfinder First Edition when you had swift actions and triggers and reactions, blah, blah, blah. It made sense for Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 for the AD&D Second Edition system, but there's just too much going on in a turn, starting with 3rd Edition forward. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion. Maybe a toggle, but even then, the hybrid that we got with Owlcat compromise the turn-based system too. And I was just talking in the server now about there's so many it's a very rich turn-based tactical game, deciding, for example, how much damage is incoming so that you could decide whether to use your reaction to shield block it, how much damage you want to take to your shield, and whether you want to do that and prevent yourself from using your one reaction to do an attack of opportunity. Like, how can you do that in a millisecond? Fuck that.
I'm an Ultra Kill player. I can handle it.
Yeah, and I think there's just more reception to turn-based games after. Wait, did you say real-time strategy? What kind of player? What did you just say?
I'm an Ultra Kill player. Ultra Kill is one of the stupidest bosses in the game. in like all of gaming. So
Yeah, but I do think there is more reception. I think turn-based. Is Baldur's Gate 3 turn-based? I just think that there's just more. I don't think. I think people are more receptive to turn-based
I think that
RPGs today
generally
than 10
people
years ago.
nowadays are more acceptable of like different types of abstractions than they were in the past, because there was a time when everybody's like realism, 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 and now we're kind of coming back down the other side where stylization is back in style.
Yeah, I think RPGs like starting in the '90s with Doom went more with an action RPG, 3D graphics. But
Yeah,
then there's been, I think, starting with what was it? Wasteland, like the Kickstarters at the beginning of the 2010s, CRPGs that were
yeah,
retro, isometric. That there's an audience, and then XCOM coming out. There's an audience for people who want to, you know, we already have real time strategy games and first person shooters. Like we
yeah.
want our crunchy,
And I know
difficult
that
turn
the
based
League of
stuff.
Legends game for the Ruined King, I'm blanking on the name of it, but there was a League of Legends computer RPG that involved controlling a party of characters in turn-based combat, and that came out like a year ago. It was well received. So
I am not occupying a library right now. I'm going to return there tonight. I came home to shower, in case people are wondering. Also, Sean and I just celebrated our birthdays. Sean turned 21. I turned 46. Woohoo! People should subscribe to Sean's channel, which I'll link also.
which I will upload another video to after finals are over.
I am still working on my law school series. I know people think I am not, but that's just because recent events, including the occupation and also developing RPG news. So much news. Like I haven't even touched the new 6E playtest, and I can't. And also, by the way, I'm not trying to promote it, but I do think more people need to rant about it. How they buffed wizards. What the hell? I don't know what's going on with them. What are they thinking? Concentration was their way to rein in casters. I'm sure it's in an original design document. And they're just, and the design, I don't know who they have on board or what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to say farewell to our viewers. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, viewers.